Headphone kutti bara.
Reverend Fathers, learned professors, research scholars, and student friends. Good morning to all of you. At the outset, it's my pleasant duty to welcome all of you to this virtual sharing initiated by the Department of Commerce. First of all, I welcome Reverend Father Henry Joram S.J., our rector, Reverend Father Alphonse Monicum S.J., the Secretary of the College, and the Reverend Father S. Mariadas S.J., our principal, to this virtual classroom. This Commerce Department, which was started in the year 1968 with some 10 students, has grown its width and depth, and now we have grown to the level of accommodating more than 650 students. And this is possible because of the great support extended by the management. And on this particular occasion, I would like to thank the management for all support extended to the department. And I also welcome them on behalf of the Department of Commerce. Now, it's really a great pleasure to welcome Reverend Father Kashmir S.J. and Dr. Diomali Arachi, who are the resource persons of this webinar. In spite of their tight schedule, they have given their consent to be the resource persons, and therefore I take this occasion in welcoming both of them to this webinar. I'm also happy to welcome all my colleagues in the Department of Commerce, without whose support this webinar would not have been possible. And at this juncture, I welcome all my colleagues in the Department of Commerce. I also feel pleasant in welcoming Dr. Ludusamy and his team to this webinar. And they have been helping us right from the beginning in conducting this webinar. And I take this opportunity in welcoming Dr. Ludusamy and his team in the IQC room. I also feel delighted to welcome all the professors from various colleges, participants from different states and nations. And finally, I welcome all the research scholars and students to this webinar, and thank you. Now, I hand over the session to Dr. Robert Billerman, and he will introduce the resource person to the audience, and he will also give instructions to all the participants of the webinar. Over to Dr. FX Robert Bellarmine.
Good morning to all. On behalf of the management of St. Xavier's College and the PG and Research Department of Commerce, I welcome all the participants for this webinar. First, I would like to give some instructions to the participants. Participants are requested to follow the instructions. The first one, join the webinar by clicking the link provided in your mail or by using meeting ID and password. Mute your audio and video during the sessions. Kindly join the webinar meeting in your name. This mail ID may not reflect the name and the department, and mention your department and type the same in the chat box. Do not log in your device name. Kindly use your name for login purpose. On your behalf, the moderator will raise your questions to the resource person. Post your queries in the chat box during the session. During the session, the speaker will ask simple questions. Kindly enter your answer in the chat box immediately. Speakers want to have interaction. Kindly submit your feedback at the end of the program, which is a must to receive participation certificate, and then sign out when the moderator asks you to do so. Whenever you experience any connection problem, kindly click the link or use the meeting ID and password to enter into the webinar room. Thank you, participants. Now it's time to introduce our resource person for the first session, Reverend Dr. Kashmir Raj, SJ. Reverend Dr. Kashmir Raj, SJ, specialized in business administration from St. Louis University, St. Louis, USA. He has made significant contribution as founder of Loyola Institute of Business Administration, LIBA, developed the institution from 53rd position to 9th at national level during his leadership. The institution extends its resources to all the aspiring business administrators at various levels. After the valuable contribution to LIBA, Dr. Kashmir Raj SJ extended his service to Xavier Labor Relations Institute, XLRI, as director, where his untiring, creative, and skillful leadership elevated the standard of the institution to 6th position at national level. As an educationalist, Reverend Father Kashmir Raj SJ has been associated with teaching marketing to the students for the past 3 decades in various institutions, XLRI, Jamshedpur, St. Louis University, Missouri, and Wheeling Jesuit College, Bhubaneswar. He was the founder director of LIBA and principal of Loyola College, Chennai. He was also director of ZIM, Bhubaneswar, a member of the American Marketing Association, and a PhD from St. Louis University, Missouri. Dr. Kashmir Raj SJ is widely regarded as an authority in marketing with numerous publications to his credit. Regarding his teaching experience, he was the professor of marketing in Loyola Institute of Business Administration, LIBA, Chennai, from 2001 to 4, then Goa Institute of Management, Goa, Xavier Institute of Management, ZIM, Bhubaneswar, Loyola Institute of Business Administration in Chennai, Wheeling Jesuit College, USA, Xavier Labor Relations Institute, XLRI, Jamshedpur, and Loyola Institute of Business Administration in the year 1979 to 86. He served as an instructor of marketing in St. Louis University, St. Louis, USA, and National Institute of Rural Development, Hyderabad. And the positions held by our resource person here, State Planning Commission Educational Cell from the year 83 to 86, Special Commission to Study Autonomy, Kerala 85 to 86, and other Special Committee for UGC for Autonomy, Special Committee to Implement New Educational Policy, Vocational Training and Employment, State Industrial Development Committee, Orissa, then Madras Management Association, Banaras Hindu University, Banaras, Xavier Institute of Management, Karunya University, Coimbatore, Ramakrishna Mission, Ranchi. So dear participants, today we have a resourceful resource person for our national webinar. On behalf of the Department of Commerce, St. Xavier's College, Palayam Kotai, and the participants, I wholeheartedly welcome Reverend Father Kashmir Raj for this national level webinar. Now over to Father Kashmir Raj. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robert Billerman, for introducing me. I'm really happy to be here in St. Xavier's College to share with you some of my thoughts on the post-COVID scenario, both in India as well as in the world. First of all, I thank the rector, Father Henry Jerem, Father Secretary, Father Alphonse Manikam, and the principal, Father Maria Das, for giving me this opportunity, and also the Department of Commerce of St. Xavier's College that gave me this opportunity. In fact, after my priesthood, this was the first place for me to come and teach here for 1 year. Those are the very troubled times, but we could do something even during those days. Now coming to the topic, post-COVID-21, macro and micro impacts. How to convert those impacts into opportunities. This is what I am thinking of speaking to you. I would like to start with a story. In 2005, Chinese companies entered India with its motorbikes. They were very cheap, 30% less than the prevailing price of the motorbikes in India. At that time, the economists thought that the motorbike industry in India will be decimated by the entry of China. But within 4 years, the Chinese motorcycle has to leave India, and many of the dealers of those motorcycles really became bankrupt. What happened? The three main companies, but the two Indian companies, both Bajaj and TVS, they had motorbikes and they were dominating their motorbike market in India, and their quality was really good. Compared to the Chinese motorbikes, their quality was good and the price was high, but people valued not just the price, but also looked at the value the motorbike gave, and therefore they bought motorbikes. And this Bajaj company, we look at the history of Bajaj company. In 1991, when India opened the country for the world by liberalizing the economy, the vociferous voice came from Mr. Rahul Bajaj, the owner and the chairman of Bajaj and Company. He vehemently opposed opening the economy to outsiders for imports. But the government went ahead with the liberalization, and Mr. Rahul Bajaj was not ready to have this open market, but he wanted time. And therefore, what he did was, he bought time by whipping up the sentiments of the consumers. Remember those days we used to have the famous ad called Hamara Bajaj. That way he wanted to show to the consumers that you should be patriotic, buy Indian products and leave the rest. And he could survive, not to flourish, but to survive. But in the meantime, he started research and development and developed the motorbike. Then his son took over from him, and his son really made a mark by introducing very good motorbike. And when Srinivasan, he started moving from TVS 50 for the poor to making various models of motorbike, and these two dominated the Indian market. And later on, they entered also African market. Before they entered the African market, Africa was dominated by cheap motorbike from China and a very expensive motorbike from Europe, mainly BMW motorbike. And there was a gap. And therefore, both TVS and Bajaj entered the African market and offered motorbike less than the European motorbike's price and more than Chinese price. Because of the quality of the motorbike, they could capture African market. Today, these two brands dominate African market. Then they entered the South American market. Today, they are the leaders in the South American market. They entered Europe. And today, in Europe, not BMW motorbike, but KTM motorbike is the leader. KTM is the brand name of Bajaj. And this is the way they could do. And see the journey they have made from finding it difficult to compete with the international companies, becoming the leader, not just in India, but also the whole world. They became today leaders. And this is the story where Indians can compete with the world if they want. And this is going to be the story we are going to have, in spite of the fact that the post-COVID scenario may change the world. And that is what everybody expects to happen. Everybody thinks that it will change the world. I personally feel there will not be big changes from what it is today. When I look at the economic history, we can see that in 1820, there was this famous Spanish flu. At that time, about 5 to 10 million people died, not caught the flu, but died. Today, even the whole world, that number does not reach. The death of the COVID people do not reach that level. But everybody thought the whole economic world will change after the Spanish flu. Nothing happened. what happened was some of the trends started before the Spanish flu now were accelerated, and the acceleration led to really economic growth. One of the very outstanding growth those days was Ford assembly line. Ford Motors, the Henry Ford Jr., started having the assembly line so that he could offer very less expensive cars to everybody. His vision was every employee of the Ford should have a car. And for this, he changed the technology, introduced assembly line, which is prevalent everywhere today. And that way you could offer the good but less expensive cars to the world. Similarly, if you look at that, what is going to happen after COVID-19 is not so much tremendous changes, but some of the trends which were existing even before the COVID, they will be accelerated. The typical example is, remember, in 2014, when Narendra Modi came to power, he proposed Make in India. That became the slogan. Now he has introduced after COVID, he calls it Atma Nirbhar. That is a self-reliant India. There is not much change between both. He gave one earlier, now he is giving something which is a very similar, a growth rate, perhaps accelerated rate of Make in India. At the same time, already we can see that after 2008 financial crisis in the world started re-looking at the economic trend. We can see that before 2008, the economic growth of the world was twice that of the GDP of the world. Twice. That is a fast growth. Why? Because the economy was willing to give any amount of loans. Using those loans, people started making more. That is a typical classical capitalism. As a result of it, they started making more, but people also started buying more because the loan was available just at the fingertips. But what happened after 2008? They started really looking at the economy. The real change took place after 2008 financial crisis. Now the world became, now we cannot be just going on with the globalization. We cannot make it global. Everything should be available to everybody anywhere. So they started looking internally. Every company started looking at it internally. Every country started looking at it internally. The famous one is a Brexit, where we know that Britain wanted quit European Economic Community. That's the first one, where they looked at how good it is to be with that community. They thought it may not be so good. Similarly, even today, we can see Macron, who is the great champion of the globalization in the world today. He feels that agriculture cannot be made globalized. We have to protect our farmers. If we ought to protect our farmers, then we ought to give them some subsidy. That's the only way. And therefore, there we ought to look at internally for the welfare of our farmers. Similarly, Russia, which is the largest exporter of wheat, It considers now today, we cannot go on doing it unlimited manner, and therefore it goes for quota. If we look at Vietnam, the largest exporter of rice, now it has banned export of rice. You know that Donald Trump is really propagating, encouraging people to start manufacturing in America. He feels that we should not depend on other countries for manufactured products, and therefore he wants to go for that. And even during this COVID, we know that more than 60 countries, 60, banned export of masks, gloves, and personal protective equipment, what they call PPE, export. They did not want to export, they wanted for themselves. That was the environment we had. And even we look at the internet, we had the Google complete monopoly. Today we know that Indonesia, China, and Russia, they have their own internet. Even many other countries who do not have their own internet, now they say that the data should be stored locally, not internationally, but locally. Thus, they want to have internal control over the economy. And this is the trend we have. Now, given this, looking at it internally, what is the scope we as Indians have after post-COVID? According to IMF, the International Monetary Fund, that only 2 countries will have positive GDP growth. All the other countries will have negative GDP growth. And those 2 countries are China, which will have 1% positive growth. The other one is India, which will have 1.8% GDP growth. And therefore, these are the 2 countries which are going to rule the world. These are going to be perhaps the superpowers. So the main competition is going to be between China and India. We in India, as of now, are occupied with how to control COVID-19. And also, though we know that the third relief package given by Nirmala Sitharaman, she proposed certain things for the future after the COVID-13, where she wanted to privatize coal mines. She wanted to go privatize aircraft manufacturing. She wanted even the defense manufacturing. These are the things she wanted to do. This is the goal she has post-COVID. But what happens in China is, it is planning to become the superpower. At the same time, it wants to distract the other aspirant to be the superpower, that is India. And therefore, what it does is, it kind of distracts us by certain skirmishes in Ladakh, claiming that Galwan is their property, then changing the map of Kalpani in Nepal. This way, it is just to distract us, not that it can do much, but it is distracting us to not to focus on the economy, but other things. This is what they want. And therefore, we have to be careful in what to be done, or what we have to do. When you look at these 2 superpowers, what you will find is There are certain things common to both, and certain advantages for China, certain advantages for India. When you look at the both countries, both India and China, we can see that both countries have skilled manpower. But India has younger manpower. 42% of the Indians are between age 35 to 60, the most productive age in the world. And therefore, we can do wonders in the world. We can beat any country in the world. And secondly, we have both countries, we have large population who are willing and able to consume. We want to consume more. That is our trend, both countries. At the same time, the majority of the middle class families are willing to spend money on durables, buying homes and other things. And therefore, both supply and demand side are really good. China has aged population. As a result of it, in the long run, their productivity may not increase, whereas productivity of India will increase because India has young population and their income also in the course of time will increase. As a result of it, even India has a small edge over China with regard to both supply and demand side. When you look at the advantage for China, China has high technology. Compared to India, China has very high technology today that we have to accept. And their manufacturing process is really great. A simple example is during this COVID-19, when the world wanted testing equipments, when they wanted PPEs, they could supply to the whole world in a very short period, which is unimaginable. Nobody could do that, but they did that. And this is really the manufacturing process they have. And secondly, they are called assembly plant world. Is strong supply chain, which I will come back later, very strong supply chain. As a result of it, they get various parts from all over the world. And here they assemble it and sell it at a very low price. If you want simple thing is, look at if you have the Apple mobile phone, look at back of that phone. You will see that designed in California, assembled in China. And this is what you will see in many of the products. So that is a high technology they have. And second one is that they have the best infrastructure. This is the one thing they are very good at. They have plenty of harbors, ports. They have fast trains. As a result of it, they are able just-in-time manufacturing, where the assembling parts, various things required, or raw materials, they will come just on time. And as a result of it, you need not have inventory very much. Even you can go for zero inventory. When we speak of the zero inventory, what we mean by that is just when we have less raw materials or processing parts or semi-finished goods. When we have a lot, what happens? The working capital is tied down a lot. Whereas when we go for zero inventory, your working capital is liberalized. As a result of it, now the price of the product you are thermal plant will see mountain of coal gathered there because those thermal plants required coal at a stock of coal for 2 months. They could not rely on the railways to get the coal on time. Therefore, they need to have a stock of 2 months coal for producing electricity. Whereas today, what you see, today they require to have just 1 week stock of coal. That means they can save the stock of 7 weeks of coal, and this is going to really reduce the cost of electricity. Though in India, the cost of electricity has not been reduced, but that is a political decision, not an economic decision. And that is the advantage of just-in-time manufacturing. We do have introduced in India, many of the companies follow just-in-time, but we are not really honed it, made it perfect. As a result of it, even now, our thermal plants have to have 1 week of coal. If we can do better, we can have just 1 day stock of coal. That way we can save a lot. Okay. And second one is the supply chain. Supply chain means that a smooth flow of various parts for manufacturing something or assembling something, where they are able to build. They are built, as I told you earlier, lot of ports, faster trains, many roads everywhere. As a result of it, goods can move very fast. In India, we are trying to do that. I will come back to that later on this point. Third one is China is highly export oriented. For them, global trade is the mantra they want. And that way only they feel they can become the leader, superpower in the world. And this is what they want. And they have succeeded in doing that. Now, after COVID-19, what is going to happen is they will be the first mover in making various products. When they become first mover, especially in high technology equipments and so on, what will happen is they will start setting standard. They will say, this is the standard you have to follow. This is a prescription we have. So you have to make your machines according to the standard or the prescription or the preciseness with which we tell you. So they are going to dictate to the whole world what should be the standard of this. Just see the impact of standard. When Microsoft entered the software world, Bill Gates did not make any product. He did not have MS-DOS, but he bought the contract. Or any of the Microsoft products. What was the main thing he did? Not that he was an expert in technology. If we compare Apple and Microsoft, Steve Jobs was far ahead of Bill Gates with regard to the technology. But the genius of Bill Gates was he created a standard. He made that all the computers should have this standard, which is better. As a result of it, everybody has to buy their software. Even Apple, which was resisting that using the Microsoft, now has to make its computers MS-DOS or Microsoft compliant. That is the way you create a standard. And this is what China is trying to do. It wants to create standard for the world, which is that way. And when that happens, then we will have a lot of trouble. Today, of course, America is creating the standard. Europe was creating the standard, the initial period of the Industrial Revolution. Now, after the World War II, America has started doing that. Now, China wants to capture that position. The fourth one is China has world-class engineering colleges and ITIs, industrial training institutes. Because unless we have world-class engineers, world-class technicians, we cannot be a leader in the world. And hence, these are very, very important, and we have to work towards that. When I come to the advantage for India, the first one I will consider as important one is, which is different from China, we have democracy, freedom, our specialty. Once people are free, they become creative. If we can offer good education, independent education, research-oriented education, certainly our people can become creative. And a good example of that is Bajaj company, motorcycle industry in India. Today, they are leaders. Why? Because they have started large research institutes of their own, where they do a lot of research. Even Hero, a Japanese company, has the largest research institute for motorcycles in India. GE. Now it has the second largest research institute in India. Why? Because we have that democracy where people can start thinking. Whereas China does not have that creativity. They use only applied technology. Whereas now we can really create paths, new paths, by becoming really creative if we have good educational institutions. The second one is, as I told you earlier, we have also skilled labor, young skilled labor, who can really work towards a lot. These are some of the advantages India will have. Now, given this, what India can do? The first and foremost thing we have to do is ease of doing business. Still in India, we want to apply for a business license, we have to go to at least 10 different units to get permission. The single window, we speak of it. We try to do that, but we have not succeeded. Only Telangana has introduced now this one, what we call TSI Pass, where you can go to one single window where we can get business cleared in no time. If other states can imitate that, introduce ease of doing business, then the first thing is we can develop a lot of business. And second one is create good infrastructure. This means Narendra Modi has initiated two things. One is called the Samudramala, where he wanted to have, I think, 42 ports all over the world, but he is facing a lot of trouble. Similarly, he had what he calls Bharatmala, where he wants to build good roads all over, like a golden triangle, quadrangle. He wanted to build roads everywhere, both are facing problem, but that is a good sign. At the same time, also, we need to go for good supply chain if you want to become the manufacturer and assembler of the world. We require supply chain. We cannot say that stop buying Chinese goods. That is not going to help us. If we want to become the supplier of the world, then we ought to get parts from all over the world, including China. That is essential. And one of the things where the supply chain today is improving, quite a few companies are doing well. One of the companies which is doing very well and taking a lot of initiatives and becomes the first in many of the areas is what we call Kerry Indev. This is a company which is a supply chain company, just started in 1984. In 36 years, it has become the largest supply chain company of India. In no time. What he has done? He has made revolution so that once the product is imported from the airport or from the port to the manufacturing plant, it will make a move very, very smoothly. The manufacturer need not worry when the goods will come. It will come no time. Even if necessary, the same day it will come. The company will clear the customs. The company will take the products from airport to the manufacturing plant, or it has its own warehouses where it keeps the goods and supply to the manufacturing plant just in time. And that way, they can save a lot of money. The production cost can be reduced. Now, quite a few companies are going into that. And also, now they have started, which is very, very important, having various warehouses, huge warehouses with high technology. They have lakhs and lakhs square feet of warehouses with 50, 60 feet high, and they stock from top to bottom. Using the technology, they know where to find things, what they can do, everything that they can get up very, very easily. It is something like Amazon, where it has a lot of things, but each one has a barcode, so the computer can look where everything is available and take it. There's something similar they are trying to do. And today it is coming up, but only 3 or 4 companies are doing that. We require more companies doing this supply chain. Next one is focusing on export, as China has done. We should not be satisfied just exporting raw materials. We are today, unfortunately, we are trying to export coal and iron ore. That's raw, but we have to give value addition to them. There is a danger, I will not deny that. For example, we are going to make steel in India, it is going to pollute the world. I don't deny that. But still, we can use a lot of modern technology by which we can reduce the pollution. I'll give you a simple example. We consider Tata Steel in Jamshedpur. It is so clean. In 1968, when I was there, we wear a shirt. Next day, we have to remove the shirt. It will be full of coal. Today, nothing of that. And Tata Steel manufacturing plant, they have everywhere fish ponds. Why? To show that our air is clean. The fish is very sensitive to oxygen. And therefore, by having the fish ponds, they want to show that there is enough oxygen. The air is pure. There is no pollution. So that way can be done even today. Hence, we can offer, instead of, without creating damage to the environment, we can offer value added products using all the raw materials we have in the world, which is very, very important. Of course, we not be like a Sterlite. We can do like a Tata Steel. Then we also need to have, as I told you earlier, we have to import parts from various parts of the world to cut cost. That is very, very important. Even today, for example, Fitch research company says that 60% of the electronic components are imported from China today for us. 50% of ingredients for antibiotic, vitamins, and hormones are imported from China. We are doing that to manufacture a lot of goods, and this is the way we are going about. This is important for us. So, and we have to also focus on research and development. I have spoken about it earlier. We are trying to do that. Microsoft wants to have the big research institute here. General Electric wants, like that, many more people want. We should focus on that. And we have to train quality workforce where we fail miserably. Our technical institutions, barring a few, are not doing very well at all in training quality workforce. And here, India has to focus a lot and do whatever possible. And also, both the polytechnics and ITS have to be improved. Bail out MSMEs because you know that 80% of the workforce is from MSM. We have that is from micro, small, and medium enterprises, and we have to focus on that. The last one is that the ban of India is a corruption. Anything and everything we have to go pay the money, grease the palms, which is a real problem we are facing. If we can avoid it, the cost of any production will be reduced, I am not exaggerating, by 30%. This is a fact. People will not accept, cannot prove the corruption, but this is a fact. And hence, India has to focus on this as much as possible. It is a real ban of India. And if we can make this change, and this will be the greatest contribution India makes post-COVID world. Okay? These are the various macro factors. Now, I think perhaps I can stop with this now. If you want to ask any questions, participants can ask. If you are not asking, then I will go to the micro impacts.
Start my video. Start my video. Dear participants, if you have any questions or if anything you want to clarify, you please post your questions in the chat box.
Anybody can ask questions. Now the host will unmute your audio. You can straight away post your question to the speaker.
Dear participants, you can also post your questions in the chat box.
Straight away,
Or if you want to interact with the resource person, you can interact.
Now the host has unmuted.
Now the host has unmuted.
You have to unmute audio and speak.
Dear participants, please unmute the audio and speak.
It's completed the macro level.
So far, we have completed the macro level. The next part is the micro level. So if you have any doubt or if you want to ask anything, you please ask. Use the chat box. You unmute or you directly ask the questions to the.
I have a question. Aaron Barna?
The Kavanam Jennifer, sir. சொல்லிடலாமா?
Anand Jensen was unmuted, sir.
Okay. What is the question? What are the threatening we have in the COVID? Salate Mary Vetri Chelvi. So, respected madam,
You can speak to father.
you can speak to our resource person, Father Kashmir Raj. So please unmute. Professor Salit Mary Vetri Chelvi, you please unmute and you directly post your question to the resource person.
Okay, sir. Respected father, your speech was very informative. First and foremost, here, can you hear me, father? Is this
Please.
audible?
Could you please ask again?
Ask them
Yes,
again.
sir. Respected father, is there any threatening for middle class people? Though the media and everything,
No, I'm not
they
getting.
are threatening. Sir, can you hear me?
You repeat the question, madam.
Sir? Sir, I have unmuted myself.
I hear you.
Father, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Father, there are lots of
Omar
information in your
also.
speech.
Please kindly type the
What's the
question in the
question?
chat box,
You
ma'am.
say it loud, then I can answer.
Yes, I already typed in the chat box, father.
Okay. Go ahead.
What are the threatening we have in the COVID?
The question is, what are the threatening we have in COVID?
Though the media and everybody is threatening the people. So what is your opinion
What are the
regarding this?
threatening in COVID? It is a health threats or economic threats.
Yes.
With regard to the economic threats, I am not going to the health threats. I am not an expert. With regard to the economic threats, immediately we are going to face certain problems, but in the long run, it will be an advantage for India. Able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, father.
What is going to happen is, especially service industries are going to suffer a lot. The manufacturing industries are going to suffer immediately purely because of the COVID, because people cannot come for manufacturing, cannot come to the factories, transportation is not available, raw materials may not be available. As a result of it, there will be a gap in starting manufacturing. but certain service industry is going to suffer for a long time, especially transport, hospitality, and so on. With regard to the real estate, both I think there is a danger that real estate may suffer. There is also another positive thinking that it may not suffer. Similarly, auto industry should suffer, but there is a glimpse of hope that it may revive a little, not much.
Thank you for that.
Another question? You have to repeat.
Is there any beneficial position for India, both in macro and micro level development after COVID is over?
Any benefit for India? Yeah, India has, as I told you, India has a real edge over many other nations economically. First of all, what is going to happen is our GDP growth rate will decline, but we will be positive growth. Even 1.8% is a positive, whereas most of the countries are going to have negative growth. America is going to have very, very bad negative growth, whereas we have the positive growth. And what does this mean? That we can start especially focusing on good manufacturing. Manufacturers for the world. We have to start doing that. Then we have the great advantage to do that. Why I say we have our advantage over the others? Because we have large number of skilled labor experts. And especially now, what is going to happen is many of the skilled labor working abroad are going to come back to India. So the skilled labor will increase. And secondly, I would like to say a small thing, which I always consider very dear to me. Our people are really smart to learn. Take the example of the migrant laborers who came to Tamil Nadu. They were all, many of them are illiterate. Many of them are unskilled laborers. They came here, they learned how to work, how to do many good things. They could build metro railway line in Chennai, which is a very, very precise, highly technical job. They could do that. They can build many high rises in Chennai or anywhere. They can build new railway lines everywhere in the world, in India. These are all done by unskilled laborers. They learned as they were while working, and they have learned it. And this is a big capital of skilled labor available in India. We can make use of them all over the country and build that. Even those who have gone back to Bihar or UP, they can develop that state itself with the skill they have learned either in Tamil Nadu or in Kerala or in Karnataka. What is the immediate resolution? No.
Further, another question is without improving infrastructure, is it possible to achieve faster economic development? Another question from Dr. D. Kadiravan.
What is the immediate solution for COVID-19 for India?
Okay, the question is, without improving infrastructure, is it possible to achieve faster economic development?
If we can improve the infrastructure.
Yeah. Without improving
the infrastructure to improve the economy, difficult. I will consider difficult. Why? Because given the modern technology, given the modern techniques we use, the cost of production will increase. If we have the good supply chain, and that supply chain can work globally, we'll get the good products at a low price. As a result of it, we can offer to the whole world products at affordable price and good quality. That is why supply chain helps you for that. Therefore, it is the best way to do that.
Another question. If the from Rajendran to everyone, if the government provide financial assistance to the MSME units, but the most of them not working properly now, then how to develop an economy?
Okay, if the government provide financial assistance to the MSCs units, the most of them not working properly now, then how to develop in our economy? See, they are not working now, main reason being the MSMEs, they don't have much capital. They can't afford to pay salary to the laborers because they don't have very much capital, no backup, anything. And hence they require, first of all, capital to buy raw materials, to pay the wages, all those things they require that. Without that, they cannot do anything. This is why they want assistance. At the same time, it's difficult to even capture the market. I will give you a simple example. Take Karur. Now, Karur is perhaps the capital of the carpets, blankets and carpets, at least in India. Now, what has happened is they have made them, they have a stock of it practically for 6 months. They are not able to send it anywhere because of the lockdown everywhere. They are not able to send. As a result of it, the regular customers are not now coming to them, back to them. They may try to get it elsewhere. So now to capture those customers, it will take time for them to go to them, speak to them, and capture. So this is going to be the problem they are going to face. And for this, they require money. For example, some of them have stock for 6 months, and that's what required for carpets. And that means so much capital is locked down. So if they have to release that, they require assistance from the government. That's all.
Okay, Father, we shall move on to the second aspect, micro level.
China, Russia, and America, because of this one problem, will go to them. Yeah, okay. There's a song. No. Now, when we come to the micro level, what you like to consider is how we can, what will be the changes taking place among the consumers to buy the goods. This is the main problem we are facing. Now, we look at during this lockdown, what were you doing at home during these days? If you look at that, villages had practically no impact of lockdown. They were going to farms, they were working every day. Only problem they had was they did not have sufficient hands to do the work. As a result of it, some of the farmers, especially in the Delta area, have suffered. Small towns, we didn't have many opportunities, and therefore we could not do much work. Recently, the Hindu did a survey to find out how did you spend your time during the lockdown? How did you make most of the stay-home situation? This is the question asked to the three metros, Chennai, Bangalore, and Hyderabad. The answers given by the they said, as soon as the lockdown is lifted, we'll go out with the friends and have fun. We'll visit the temple. Long drive in bike or car. Meet friends and relatives. Drink with the friends. Go to restaurants. Go to salary or gym. All these are immediately what they want to do. And this will be the normal trend everywhere. Immediately they want to have certain freedom to go out and enjoy it because they are too much, they are locked down. This is what going to happen immediately. And of course, we expect also in the future, immediately, people also, there will be great increase in going for grocery. Movie theaters will not be opened. Relax, that will be difficult. Entertainment parks will not be opened. Even beaches may take time to open. They may open soon, thank God, with certain limitations. So relaxation will be a big problem for them. Grocery, immediately will start. Though they are buying now, what happens is they may not get the brand they want. So if our children, they like certain brands. For example, they like Maggie's 2-minute noodles, which may not be available now. And therefore, they have to go and buy those things. And therefore, the grocery store will be increasing. The durables will take time because of the lack of money. This will take time. But most of the consumable goods, certainly, there will be a spurt in the purchase immediately. The last one is, I thought perhaps I thought I will end its time. I do not want to take the time of Dr. Javamalai. For Tamil Nadu, we have to focus on tourism immediately. It is important for us. You know that in the past few years, Tamil Nadu had the highest amount of tourists. In Tamil Nadu, we have the advantage of 5 kinds of tourism. The first one is a social. That means people travel for marriages, deaths, funerals, then so many other life cycle events. So that is the first one. And second one is religious. You have a lot of temples, churches, mosques, where people from all over the world would like to come. And therefore, religious tourism is very high in Tamil Nadu. And third one is the medical tourism. The largest medical tourism in India is in Tamil Nadu. People from all over the world are coming to Tamil Nadu for treatment because we have the quality doctors and hospitals at a very, very reasonable price. For medical tourism is a big one in India. Then we have the leisure tourism, the sense that hill stations, we have the best beaches, but we have not developed our beaches very much like other states. It's a real pity. We can develop a lot of our beaches for tourism, but we have the good hill stations. Therefore, that is the leisure. Then education tourism, that is people can we have good institutions also, people can come here for studies. So these are the things we have to develop. For this, we have to also improve a little of the infrastructure, like good buses and good restaurants and so on. If we can do that, this will be our big immediate response we can have. So people feel that tourism will take time to pick up. But I feel it will pick up very fast because we are social beings. For us, the social events are very, very important. And so many marriages are locked down. Deaths were not locked down, but marriages are locked down. As a result of it, people will like to have many marriages soon after the lifting up of the lockdown. So, and religious people will like to go for religious pilgrimages and so on. These are the things will happen soon. So if we can open it up for that, our tourism can improve a lot. This is my feeling. So I think it is time for me. Okay. So thank you all the participants for listening to me. And I sincerely think that we will improve. Already my friend Jamala is there waiting for to start talking. So I will end with this. So thank you for your patient listening to me. Thank you very much.
Dear participants, so if you have any doubt, you please post in the chat box. And another question from Rex Angelo. The question is to explain the reason for which villages do not have much impact of COVID. Father, is a question. The reason for which villages do not have much impact of COVID.
The reason for villages not having impact of COVID.
Okay. There are various reasons they give. In villages, they do not feel because their immunity is very high. One of the reasons is that their immunity is very high because they live a kind of not a sensitive situation. They live in a even bad atmosphere, and therefore they build up immunity. As a result of it, they are not easily affected by this. For COVID-19, immunity is very, very important, and villages have it. That may be the main reason. Secondly, of course, when they go to work to the farm, there is no problem of the social distancing. Only few people, and therefore, social distancing is there by very nature of the farming. But that is not the main problem. That is I feel, main reason why villages do not have it. And or perhaps some of them may have it, but they ignore it and go on to work. That may be another reason. But the statistics shows that there is less incidence of COVID in the villages.
Another question from J. Bharati. Which type of investment is better? Kindly give your suggestion. That is better investment during the post-COVID period.
Which type of investment is better during post-COVID-19? Which type of investment is better post-COVID-19?
Well, what kind of investment is better for the investors? No, you want the investors, no? See, today we want to invest. I personally feel going for government bonds is the safest. The rate of interest may be low, but it's the safest. And the government is going to borrow a lot of money. They require a lot of money. Not only our government, every government is going to borrow a lot of money. As a result of it, there will be the good opportunity, safe, but the return may not be very high. We go to the bank, the rate of interest will be very, very low because now you know that the repo rate has come to 4%, and therefore the fixed deposit rate will be very, very low. It's not worth the investing. And of course, we are going to invest in the food and classical industries. Certainly, they are in the long run, they are safe. Therefore, there is no problem. Okay. MSCs, you have to take the risk to invest, but we are lucky, certainly we'll make a lot of money.
Thank you, Father.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. Now it's a time to propose vote of thanks. So, on behalf of the participants, I extend my sincere thanks to our resource person, Reverend Father Kashmir Raj. Father has clearly explained the post-COVID-19 macro-micro impacts. Father has also compared the positive and the negative impacts of both India and China, and also he clearly stated what India should do during the post-COVID period. Thank you, Father. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us. Definitely, the information you have shared will help many business people to face the post-COVID period and convert them into opportunities. Once again, I extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to you, Father. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, I invite Dr. Joe Pascal from the Department of Commerce for the second session. Professor Joe Pascal will act as a moderator for the second session. Immediately, the second session will begin.
Good morning, everyone. Is it audible? We are about to begin the second session of this webinar, and I'm happy to welcome and introduce our resource person for the session, Dr. Jabamale Vinachyarechi. He is a sustainable development expert with over 30 years of experience in United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, in Vienna, Austria. There he has served in various capacities and eventually retired as a principal advisor to the Director General of UNIDO. He has to his credit several degrees with distinctions. He has authored several journal articles, books and reports highlighting the changing patterns of sustainable development with a focus on economic efficiency, ecological compliance, and social inclusion. His recent works include Myths and Realities of East Asian Model of Development, India's Time, Rethinking Development Realities, Intervene to Industrialize, and The Poverty of Economic Thinking. A book on his personal life is penned by him and is titled In Joy and Sorrow. His forthcoming book is titled Ethics in Politics, Then and Now. He has won several awards. He is a gold medalist from St. Joseph's College for being the best outgoing student, and the UNIDO DG Award for Outstanding Performance, Lifetime Achievement Award by various organizations, and Dynamic Indian of the Millennium by KG, and the Professional Excellence Award by the Auckland-based Indo-New Zealand Business Association in the year 2018. And he is one of the most sought-after resource persons for various national and international conferences and seminars all over the country. Dear sir, we are delighted to have you as a resource person for the session of our national webinar. And over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the kind words you said about me. Beloved Reverend Fathers, learned members of the teaching faculty, and dear participants. I would like to express my profound sense of gratitude to Reverend Father Kashmir Raj, my mentor, friend, philosopher, and guide, for recommending me as one of the speakers for this very important event. I have consumed sufficient quantity of Jesuit salt, and I always await an opportunity to reciprocate it, at least in a small measure. That's why I'm here now. Let me first give you a general outline of my presentation. I called the current crisis the great global economic paralysis. It is not recession, it is not depression. In techno-economic terms, it is not recession in the sense, recession is underpinned by dramatic decline in economic activity for 2 quarters, at least for 6 months. So we have been suffering this only last three months, so not yet recession. Of course, there are indications that the economy is definitely plunging into recession. It is not depression. Depression means a deep dive in economic activities, productive and service activities for few consecutive years. So this is not depression, not yet, not yet. So I just want to explain the magnitude of this current global economic paralysis first, triggered by COVID-19, because it is the paralysis is caused by sickness. That's why I call it paralysis. Then I would like to draw lessons from the past crises. And the development history tells us that each challenge is an opportunity. And from each crisis, we recovered very well. And we discovered the process of recovery. And during this time also, we will do that. And then I want to talk about the new normal, which is actually indicating, giving the signal for change. And we have to be part of the change. Otherwise, we will be out of context. Then I am very keen to make optimistic claims about the growth and prosperity of our country amidst a very somber thing. As you all know that in the institutions, everybody is in a depressed, oppressed, suppressed mood. Even students who got employment opportunities through campus recruitment, they are not even called for. Students are really at a loss to know what is going to happen. So I'm going to inject, I will try to make optimistic claims about the possible recovery of the global economy and the Indian economy. This is the business cycle. You see ups and downs here. It goes up and then it reaches peak. We call it prosperity. Then economic activity may come down. Then it reaches bottom, depression. This is the depression. And then it recovers. And again, this has happened several times. The world economy passed through cyclical downturns several times. And every time it rebounded very well, exceeding expectations. And each crisis hitherto proved to be an opportunity. Let us now take the example of the Great Depression of 1930s. It was in 1929, the American economy plunged into the Great Depression. And President Roosevelt, who assumed office as president, he said, the only fear we have to fear is fear itself. And then he requested the famous economist John Maynard Keynes to treat American economy as the Keynesian laboratory and requested him to make some interventions. And Keynes introduced the pump priming policy. He said it is very easy to recover the American economy. Let the desire of the people or the want of the people be backed by purchasing power. should be backed by purchasing power means you are able to translate your desire into want. This is called the effective demand. For that, he requested the government of America to pump more money into the economy through the implementation of infrastructural projects and getting people empowered in those projects. So when the people's income increased, the effective demand for goods and services increased. When the effective demand for goods and services increased, there was a very good supply response from the firms. Firms started producing, and by 1933, America enjoyed full employment. Pump priming is the key instrument. And this bears relevance to what is happening in India now. The Honorable Finance Minister, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman, has introduced this 20 lakh crores package program. This is just to pump money into the economy, give more money in the hands of the people, so that their wants and desires are backed by purchasing power, translated into effective demand, and the effective demand will serve as a potential source of growth. So this is the lesson we learned. Then let us talk about the 1973 first oil shock. It was for the first time the oil price went up above $100 a barrel. It was a very big shock. So when the oil prices went above $100 a barrel, many economists predicted a very gloomy picture for developing countries. In fact, no prediction saw the light of reality, and nobody predicted the right thing. And hitherto, no major economic downturn was predicted by anybody. This is what the history tells us. So many economists started writing, so it will be very difficult for developing countries to keep pace with this one, and they all will be completely doomed. In fact, it was only after the first oil shock, many countries emerged as newly industrializing countries, and many countries emerged as second generation of newly industrializing countries, and many emerging economies also surfaced. And after the oil shock, the government made a priority action. Everybody, the private sector and the public, they all made a priority focus on increasing energy efficiency. I still remember when I was working as a lecturer, I used to ride a lampreter. 1 liter gave me only 7 kilometers. Now 1 liter of petrol can enable a two-wheeler to cover 75 kilometers. This came out of the crisis. So when there is a crisis, there is a solution. R&D played a major role, and we came out of that very well. And then East Asian financial crisis. What is the lesson we learned? What happened was East Asian financial crisis was mainly due to high import intensity of exports. As you know, all the East Asian countries, Republic of Korea, Taiwan province of China, Thailand, Indonesia, all these countries were 100% export-oriented countries. In fact, external demand accounted for more than 90% of growth in each sector. In India, domestic demand accounts for more than 90%. We have a huge domestic market potential. Domestic demand accounted for more than 90% in each sector. In the export-oriented countries, external demand account. But how did they produce for exports? By importing. So importing inputs, assembling them, and exporting. So the import intensity was funded by short-term lenders, like film financiers. So they lent it for 2 months, 3 months, and at a high rate of interest. So what happened was when the short-term lenders withdrew lending, everything collapsed. This is what I partly predicted in my PhD thesis 10 years before it occurred. And the title of the PhD thesis was External Vulnerabilities of East Asian Manufactured Exports. What I meant was the high import intensity of export being funded by short-term lenders. So the day they withdrew, everything collapsed. So what happened? We started avoiding too much importance, giving too much importance short-term lenders, and they just recovered. They just adjusted to that. They made the government introduced apt interventions and enabled stakeholders, industrial stakeholders, to source funds from other sources, and thereby they helped them to recover. Then 2000, there's a so-called dot-com downturn. It was all due to speculation, and many software in the industries working 700% above their capacity, it seems. There was an exaggerated imagination about this. Companies expanded like anything. The real lesson what we learned was get large and get lost. That's why the famous economist Schumacher wrote a very interesting book, Small is Beautiful. And he systematically proved that small is beautiful, possible, and profitable. Okay. And the third one, the fourth one is 2008 financial crisis. Here, the real lesson what we learned was the private sector misbehaved. We had over-belief on market forces, over-belief on privatization, over-belief on deregulation, over-belief on liberalization. And as a result, the private sector misbehaved. So too many speculation about the derivatives and the inflated price of properties and this and that, everything. It was for the first time government realized that, prices alone cannot correct itself. We cannot count on free market forces. There is a need for selective intervention on the part of the government. We realized that failure to correct market failure will be a big failure on the part of the government. It is important that the government intervenes to correct market failure. Don't just count on market forces alone. So this is a very good lesson. This was a very good lesson that we learned. Then 2020 great crisis, and we are going to see the magnitude of it and the implications for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Now, there are different types of recovery. V-shaped recovery, U-shaped recovery, W-shaped recovery. Let me just reflect on these three first. V-shaped recovery means assuming that the COVID curve will be flattened very soon, and immediately after that, everybody will plunge into productive and service activities. It would definitely recover immediately. Sharp increase in productive and service activities. This is called V-shaped recovery. And many are very skeptical about V-shaped recovery. As things stand today, V-shaped recovery may not take place. But Morgan Stanley, a leading consulting firm, 3 days ago came out with a report saying that there will be a V-shaped recovery very soon. Surprising. I wanted to read and reread and wanted to go deep into it. Why are they saying it? They said the world economy may plunge into even -8 in the third quarter. But in the first quarter of 2021, economies will recover very well. Then I wanted to find out the reason. Why are they saying it? The reasons were very, very convincing to me. They said because of decisive policy interventions, determined policy interventions to keep pace with the change. I believe in that. Prosperity is essentially a matter of policy choice. That's why Singapore is where it is now. Without a single resource base, normally countries are supposed to convert their resource-based comparative advantages into competitiveness. Singapore is enhancing global competitiveness without a single resource base, virtually no resource, but using human ingenuity as the infinite source of wealth creation. So it is possible. So this came out because of very good policy interventions. They created the best national innovation system in the world, no other country. On the scale of industrial performance, for 20 consecutive years, Singapore tops the list. How is it happening? It has an entry port type of characteristic. A small country, virtually no resource. How could this country top the list of countries on the scale of industrial performance? Because they attach topmost priority to human ingenuity. And they established the best national innovation system. In an ideal national innovation system, new knowledge is generated by institutions, exploited by laboratories, and commercialized by dynamic firms. That is happening there. I cannot think of such a wonderful interactive framework anywhere else in the world. So it is possible. So policy, if you just come out with the determined and decisive policy choices, it is possible to rejuvenate or rekindle new and dynamic sources of growth. And then another reason that what they are saying is the countries which followed a very strict lockdown, New Zealand and some countries in Europe, they are all now managing the economy very well. Very well. When it is opened once again, and the way they manage the transition to the old normal to the new normal. New normal is the real normal. We were living abnormal life, to be very honest. When the transition to new normal is being very well handled by these economies. The countries which were extremely successful in containing this virus And the countries which opened up again are managing very well. And because of these two compelling reasons, Morgan Stanley makes optimistic claims about V-shaped recovery. U-shaped recovery means it takes some time. It is a reluctant recovery. Reluctant recovery, slowly it will pick up. It will may take 6 months, maybe 1 year, and eventually economies may recover. W-shaped recovery is interesting because there is no guarantee that the virus will not occur again and again. Because of the recurrence of the virus, it's quite possible that there will be intermittent breakdowns, intermittent opening up, and the economy will also respond like that. And eventually it may go down, go up, and again go down and go up. So it's called a W-shaped recovery. In the past, the main difference between the past recovery and the present recovery was, in the past, the focus was on stimulating investment and consumption. Now, the focus is on research and innovation. Knowledge is a source and innovation is a force. And research and innovation, these two factors play a very, very important role. You know, when we talk about Father Kashmir Raj very nicely explained the importance of research and innovation, very convincing way. Now, in order to stimulate in the research and innovation, we have to look at key determinants. There is what is called technological efforts and technological capabilities. One, we can assess the technological capability or innovative capabilities of countries only by looking at the parameters relevant for technological efforts. What are the technological efforts we put in? There is input factor and output factor. Input factor is, so money spent as percentage of GDP. How much we spend? Hardly 1%, less than 1%. So our input is very low. And look at China. It is spending more than 4% and absolute terms because of the huge GDP it has. You can imagine in absolute terms, lot of money is spent. That's why, as Father Kashmir Raj said, they have the best technology institutes there. That plays a very, these institutes play a very important role there. And the private sector is also involved. When you look at the input factors, the main thing is how much money the public and private sector are putting into research R&D. Then output factors are that the number of patents registered, number of patents commercialized. These are output. So I have prepared the 18 parameters to assess the technological extent of technological efforts and capabilities in order to assess the extent of innovation. And if you use all these parameters, we are nowhere. We are far, far below the top performers in the world. Okay, let me go to the next one. Focus on L's and avenues of business opportunities. We are now facing 3 L's. Life, we have to save the lives of people. That is the topmost priority. And many are saying that abandon all the plans, forget about the budget, spend to save the lives of the people. I think it is very fair, grossly justified. Then livelihoods. We have to create the sustainable sources of livelihoods for the victims of COVID-19. Then lifestyle, totally different. New lifestyle is triggering new patterns of production and consumption. Then leverage with the virtual world. Everything is going to happen in the virtual world hereafter. So do you have the capacity, enhanced adaptive capabilities and skills to use modern technology and to commercialize new knowledge in order to participate in the virtual world effectively? Now let us go and see what are the emerging business opportunities in saving lives, in creating sustainable sources of livelihoods, in adapting to the new pattern of living, and in leveraging with the so-called virtual world. What is going to happen is open innovation and value creation network. This is what is going to be triggered by the virtual world and whether we are able to participate in. We are going to look at the emerging business opportunities in each area. So business opportunities in saving lives. Now, when you say, okay, we can immediately say, we can produce more masks and sanitizers. Go beyond that. Of course, they are important, very important. Even there, producing good masks and sanitizers and selling it at an incredibly low price is a very big task, and many are doing it. Many are actually doing it. Recently, I went to Ramraj shop and I purchased 5 very well designed, very convenient one, and the mask for 200 rupees. Incredibly cheap. It's all very well done, and there are many competitors. And in fact, in mask production, there is a cutthroat competition. Even small trailers are producing fantastic masks. So it is not when there is a cutthroat competition, it is not the question of survival of the biggest or smallest, but the fastest. Only those who keep pace with the rapidly changing facets of processing, design, and marketing will survive. Others will fall apart. And it is going on. Let us move beyond mask production and sanitizer production. The immune boosting products, I would like to concentrate. I don't know whether how much unity we have in diversity, but there is definitely a lot of unity in immunity. Otherwise, there will be community spread. Everybody is aware of that. Everybody supports that. Immunity boosting products based on traditional knowledge and medical practices. This is very important. This is emerging as a very, very coveted market. I can give you one example. The Moringa powder taken from Moringa leaf. I don't know how many of you are aware of this one. It is God's gift to mankind. It contains everything. You take 1 teaspoon of Moringa powder every day, which I do, your immune system will be perfect. And please Google that. I can give you convincing reasons and compelling arguments for this. And you can Google that. You just say Moringa products and health, then you will see a lot of information. Cuba has converted the entire country into Moringa farm. Entire country is into Moringa farm because of the high and the ingredients it has, which are very good for boosting the immune system. And originally, the plant was transplanted from Tamil Nadu to Cuba many years ago. Now that, like that, I'm giving you because of the time factor, I'm just giving you one example. Like that, there are so many products, and these products are going to be very prominent. These products are emerging as promising product areas, and entrepreneurial aspirants can definitely get into that. I know Father Kashmir Raj also knows him, a well-qualified person, IIT gold medalist, and he was working in many countries across the border. He abandoned everything, came back to his farm, the village, a small village between Koilpatti and Tirunelveli, converted his grandfather's land into a huge Moringa farm. 200 acres already he has done. He's going to cover 400 acres. And he's selling these things like hotcake. And the products, and the Moringa-based products, the demand for Moringa-based products at the global level is to the tune of $10 billion. And the supply response is only to the tune of 30%. Everybody cannot export. You should be 100% organic based on biodynamic agricultural practices. Then you don't get the border rejection of the product. This gentleman is doing, he has captured almost every continent. Europe, he's exporting into Europe, North America, Australia, everywhere he is doing it. And you can network your team, on a bilateral basis. You can collect the information from me or from Father Kashmir Raj, and he helps people to do that with a buyback arrangement. You benefit from his established global marketing. Why such a great demand for this product? Because all the food processing companies are using Moringa product, pharmaceutical companies are using it, and cosmetic companies are also doing it. It appears that if you mix the Moringa oil with aloe vera gel, that will be the best face cream. It is proven. It's all systematically, scientifically, methodically proved. So this is like that. You can look for these promising product areas and get into some type of ventures to emerge as an entrepreneur. There is going to be a big demand. You can even penetrate the global market. Then my feeling is, apart from this, the mask protection and the sanitizers and immune boosting product, what I realized when I looked at the global literature, I just Googled and used some search engine to see what are the products actually. I see high-tech and sophisticated testing and treating equipment, facilitating social distance, medical treatment, and assuring in private and public hygiene. There's a big market for it. Everybody is looking for it. Already 120 products are available. You just click, you just see high-tech and sophisticated products for good health. You see the number of products. Some of them are incredibly cheap. You have to look for that. In fact, many students, engineering students, are already discovered. My friends are organizing tech top competition for engineering colleges. Every year they do it. Originally, it was done under the auspices of IEEE and MIT. Now they are doing it. Professor Damodaran is in charge of that, and another friend, Rajesh, who Father Kashmir also knows him. And he is in Malaysia, teaching in Singapore and Malaysia. He is also organizing it. They are encouraging boys and girls to come out with some innovation. Many are coming out with unique invention, very small things, grassroots innovations that may serve as new growth impulses. So please look at this. Those who want to emerge as entrepreneurs, start a micro enterprise or small enterprise, look for these devices and see how well we can do that. Then mobile clinics, there may be a big demand. When I say, I asked a doctor whether the business, of course, hospital is a big business, and is it affected? Yes, he said yes, but the small doctors running a small clinic in villages, they are flourishing like anything. It seems they are all doing very well. And if you can operate, you don't have to be a medical doctor to run a company with some mobile vans, mobile clinics. And you can go to remote villages and then offer the service at normal price, incredibly low price. Then you will be in the market, you can make money out of that. So these are all the things. But in addition to that, you can also invest, particularly in this area, high-tech and sophisticated testing instruments. Whether you don't have to manufacture it, be a distributor. Identify the best one and say that I would like to be a distributor for this area. Then you mint money. Okay, next one. Business opportunities in creating sustainable sources of livelihoods. Now our priority accent is definitely on creating sustainable sources of livelihoods for migrant workers. Now, government, day before yesterday, I think 4 days ago, they announced 50 billion rupees package for creating sustainable sources of livelihood for migrants. Now, I am reminded of what I did in Sudan. When I assumed office as UNIDO representative in Sudan, and I was irrelevant. I even wrote to the headquarters and also wrote to the counterpart Ministry of Industry saying that I feel enormously incompetent to make interventions befitting our mandate. Our mandate is to foster economically efficient, ecologically friendly, and socially desirable pattern of development. We always talk about ecologically advanced and technologically more developed means of production. I was totally irrelevant because 2 million people killed and 4 million persons were internally displaced persons like our migrant workers. 4 million. In a country like that, what is the priority? Everything was humanitarian centric. There was no other activity on the part of the donors and UN except dropping genetically modified American wheat using WFP aircrafts. Nothing else. Everything was human because people were starving and dying. And then I thought I was totally irrelevant. Unless I used the word humanitarian, I would be out of context. So I went to one area, Niba Mountain region, and I talked with the internally displaced persons who came back to the areas of origin, as it is happening now in India. I asked them simple question, please list your priorities, that's all. Priority 1, we want to own a piece of land. Then priority number 2, we want some assistance from NGOs and international organizations to cultivate the land and increase agricultural productivity. 3, we want some assistance from international agencies to get into semi-processing for further processing and further processing into final products. I captured a niche. I thought we have a role to play here. Ours is manufacturing, fabrication is part of it. Then I just thought I called the program Humanitarian Plus because if you don't use the word humanitarian, donors won't give. Japan gave 1.4 million from the Japanese contribution to UN Trust Fund for Human Security. With that, to make the long story short, we just trained the local blacksmiths in fabricating improved versions of their traditional agricultural tools. This is what we did. Nothing else. It improved agricultural productivity by 1,200%. And through this process, we eradicated extreme poverty in 147 villages, isolated villages, totally isolated villages. And nobody wanted to look at us for 3 years. Then when the World Bank came to know of the impact and compact of the program, they sent a team to assess this. And they came out with a report, you can Google that. And the report is titled, Community-Based Development Projects in Sudan, Lessons Learned. And then in that report, they said, what UNIDO does is the best model for post-conflict recovery and development in terms of sensitization, target beneficiaries, tangible impact, local empowerment, and sustainability. Using all these parameters, they assessed everything. And after the publication of the report, European Union immediately released $12 million to replicate the same in other parts of Sudan. And now UNIDO is rolling with nearly $36 million just to replicate very simple intervention, what we made. This is very relevant for our migrant workers now. Many are returning to the areas of origin because of emotional commotion. Some really want to settle down in the areas of choice. Immigrants living in Kerala, it appears they are not very keen to go back. They're very happy there. And many, now I would say 90% of the immigrants are going back to the areas. In the areas of origin, there is no livelihood. There is no source of livelihood. That's why they left the areas of origin, went to areas of choice. Now they are going back. What should we do? It's quite possible. If you ask them, what are your priorities? It's quite possible, like the internally displaced persons who told me in Niba Mountain region of Sudan, they may say, we want to own a piece of land. Introduce land reform policies and introduce change policy, make a very effective policy intervention to give them each household a piece of land, 1 acre of land. Then engage, request all the international organizations, the government departments and the NGOs, encourage them, give them a lot of incentives to help them, as we did in Sudan, to cultivate the land, getting into some degree of processing, create a common the facility centers, like that, make interventions like that. And this will be the only way out according to my experience. My experience tells me this will be the right approach to address the issues of, to create the challenge of creating sustainable sources of livelihood for the migrants who are returning to the areas of origin. Then making households industrious. This is another one, industrious. Actually, before the evolution of the first industrial revolution, it was the household sector which responded to growing demand for goods and services. It is called industrious revolution. There was no factory, there was no workshop. Who supplied? The household sector responded. And today, the household sector can easily participate in the global value chain. Give them special incentives. You tell them that each household should be engaged in some type of productive activity or service activity. If you systematically prove, you get grant, not loan, a gift from the government. Make each household. I have seen it in Syria. I have seen it in several countries. In Syria, what they do, one company, it's a big company, okay? It is just providing each household with a cow. And every day they supply the feed, everything, whatever is needed. And these poor people in the household keep the cow in the backyard. And every day the company is also collecting the milk. And then it is processing many dairy products. It is working very well. It's a very simple intervention. And why can't we come out with a blueprint to make each household a factory, a small mini factory? So make each household industrious. I know that in Nagarkovil, many bakeries are actually not baking things. They are subcontracting the production of everything to houses, individual families. Actually, there is a famous Karupakatti Alva. You must have heard about it. Very famous in Nagarkovil. And it's all produced at home and supplied to the bakery. So the house is flourishing. The household sector is industrious. Like that, we should come out with a framework to that. If you are able to do that through right policy interventions, right the incentive system, this is possible. This is very simple. It's not rocket science. Okay, if we can do that, I think we can create sustainable sources of livelihood. Then empowering rural population active in biodynamic and organic agricultural activities related to promising product areas. First, we have to prepare an inventory of promising product areas. Very often, it is based on products which are internationally tradable. That's very good. Or nationally or regionally tradable. Products that can be sold. And then you see the reason for demand for this product. See, now everything is printed with the letter organic, and it may not be organic. You know. But what they say is biodynamic. It's a very simple thing what our great grandparents followed. You take the cow dung, put all the leaves, fallen leaves, and keep it in a small pot for nearly the 6 months. You get the best natural manure. It is working very well. Now, many people who have small farms, coconut plantation and small farm, they are all doing it. They are all getting into the biodynamic and the agricultural practices. And that will pave the way for this one. Then scaling up of the activities of the micro, small, medium enterprises, taking advantages of the new definition and the incentive system. Fortunately, the scale, it can be scaled up. The activities of even micro enterprise can be scaled up because of the new definition. It's a very good one, very good one. But the most important thing is we are inviting foreign investment. And last week I read Samsung is going to invest around $50 billion worth of project in India, in West Bengal. This is what I heard. So foreign direct investment will always go to locations because of cheap labor. 80% of the FDI goes to locations because of cheap labor. Because cheap labor, in spite of the incidence of technical progress, technological marvels they made, which made deep inroads into processing, design, and marketing, cheap labor is still the key determinant of investment. And when you look at a global survey of literature on the impact of foreign direct investment on capacity and capability building, nil. Big zero. You can go through the literature. You can Google and see. You just type impact of foreign direct investment on capacity and capability building in developing countries. Very, very poor. They don't contribute to that. So you introduce conditionalities. You impose conditionalities on foreign direct investors, saying that, see, this much capacity should be created. You should have a separate program for capability building and all these things. You should do that. And I can just give one example. In China is extremely good at it, extremely good. I can give one small example. When a foreign investor comes, they are compelled to recruit professors working for the laboratories affiliated to universities, science laboratories. And having exposed these professors to new ways of doing business, they bring them back to the university and convert the laboratory into a global factory. No, it is not fiction. It happened in China. So this type of intervention, again, I go back to it. It's a matter of policy intervention. So if you do that, SMEs, and then in Singapore, when a foreign investor comes, immediately a focal person is appointed at the Ministry of Trade and Industry to dovetail the needs of the foreign direct investor and the capabilities of SMEs. And if the SMEs are lacking those capabilities, they render technical assistance, free of cost, technical assistance and business support services in order for the SMEs to take active part in the value chain of the foreign direct investor. This is happening. Unless you make an aggressive intervention like this, nothing will emerge. Let us go to the next one. Business opportunities stemming from new style of living. This is really interesting. The first thing what we have to do is to make an inventory of the modern industrial applications of the country's resource base. India is endowed with a huge reservoir of everything except maybe oil. Everything is here. You look at what are the disaggregated products that can be produced using our resources. So first step is to prepare an inventory of modern industrial applications of our resource base at a disaggregated level, at the 3-digit level, 4-digit level, even go to 5-digit level. Look at the industrial data, you will get the products. You will easily get the list of products at the 5-digit, whether that can be produced. So that is the first point we have to do. And that inventory should be constantly updated, Then you try to identify viable, promising product areas and encourage dynamic entrepreneurial aspirants and conduct a series of knowledge and technology-based the entrepreneurship program in order for the young boys and girls to get into this. I always say that irrespective of the subjects students learn at the undergraduate level and at the graduate level, at the end of the course, there should be a 6-month intensive training program on dynamic entrepreneurship, knowledge and technology-based dynamic entrepreneurship. It's quite possible that the guy who does history may emerge as an entrepreneur. It's quite possible. So many people who had never been to school emerge as dynamic entrepreneurs. So with a little knowledge of anything, he may be able. So at the end of each course, there should be an intensive crash program on dynamic entrepreneurship. That is the only salvation for us. Then production of casual garments. This was actually, I read it from an economist who wrote a very interesting thing. He said when 80% of the persons who work from home the demand for casual work will definitely, dress will go up. It really happened. When you work from home, you don't have to put on the three-piece full suit and tie and this and that. No, there is no need for that. You can wear a casual dress and do that. And it's automatically going. I got a clipping, actually, someone from Kerala sent it to me. I would kindly request I would kindly request the organizers to allow me to get into that. It takes only 1 minute. It is a bit funny. I just want you to realize that how the demand for casual work. Where is it? No, I'm not able to get into it. I stopped this one. Then the technician should try to help me. Now I type desktop. I'm not getting desktop here. Okay, I will narrate it. I think it's coming. No, I'm sorry. I'm not able to get into this. Let me go back to my slide. Okay. Now, the slide which I wanted to show was, one lady was in salwar kameez. She just put a lungi and pretended as if she was wearing a sari around her neck. And then she actually forgot that she just wanted to boil the milk and she forgot to turn it off. Then during the course of lecture, suddenly she removed, she realized that she forgot to turn it off, the stove, and immediately she rushed, throwing the lungi out, and she was going in the original salwar kameez. This is a funny thing which I saw, but it has a lot of meaning in that. It's quite possible, because of this type of pattern of living, it's quite possible that the demand for casual dress may go up. In garment making, again, cheap labor is the key determinant. It's called cut, make, trim operations. The technology, there is no technological marvel there in making mass production of standardized products. Cheap labor is the key input. Then, preference for individual houses to apartments. This is already happening in Kerala. Many Keralites are coming back from Gulf countries, particularly from Gulf countries and other countries. They find their state a much better place to live. As you know, Kerala is doing extremely well in flattening the curve. And okay, so it is recurring and reoccurring, but it's all due to so many other factors. But they are very good, extremely good at it. But people prefer to live in individual houses than to live in apartments. The demand for it is going up. Then refurbishing old computers. This is interesting. Because of the new style of living, new mode of living, the new normal, the demand for technology is increasing like anything. So many devices are being used. And the online classes and this and that. And the one way, everybody cannot afford it. One way is to just collect old computers and refurbish them and sell them at incredibly low price. In Lagos, and the previous capital of Nigeria, 14 engineers, young boys, joined together and they started collecting components from the e-waste and also from people who are selling the old computers, and they're refurbishing them and making everything as good as new computers and selling it just for $50. It's a big market, and 6,000 vendors are networking with them in the value chain. This is another one one can pick up. Efficient and reliable home delivery services, which we know. And people seldom go to the restaurants now. If there can be an efficient service at a reasonable price, there's a big demand for it. Then commercializing existing research findings related to health. This is very important. So many research institutions have discovered so many things, and 90% of them remain as a debt investment. I can tell you one example. In Sudan, an institute based in Khartoum, National Research Center for Medicinal and Research on Medicinal and Aromatic Plants. This is the name of the institute, very long name. And that institute discovered the essence of a leaf of a wild plant which grows in the desert. You don't plant, you don't water, you don't manure, it grows in spite of you. And the villages of that, the people living in that particular village, and they discovered that can solve that can heal the open wound of diabetic patients. The market is to the tune of $50 billion. And that research finding still remains as a debt investment because of lack of technical assistance and funds for registering patents, getting the patents registered, and money for commercializing it. I tried to do that, bringing Saudi Arabian investors and bringing Indian experts to help them to get the patent registered. And unfortunately, it did not see the light of reality. So many research findings are there. You can prepare an inventory of those research findings and analyze the commercial potential of that and get into that. And then another one is a human repeller. You must have heard about dog repeller, a small electronic impulse attached to the stick can repel the dog. The dog will run away. But we don't want human beings to run away. But maybe we should, in order to maintain social distance, minimum they say 3 meters, and there should be some invention. You keep it in the pocket, the repeller, it will automatically gives you the signal, come on, increase the distance. It's quite possible. This is just my imagination. It may happen one day. Home for the retirees. This is very important. There's, old people prefer to live in, and according to the latest survey done by an American, there is a big demand for home for the aged, for the retirees. And this is a market you can, if you create at least a 7-star, 5-star style facilities, you can even charge them, even if you can ask for 1 lakh per month. People are willing to pay. They want to have a peaceful life during the old age time. And many are preferring this. This is a niche you can try to capture. And home garden. You can say, how can a micro enterprise or small enterprise? Now, come on, you produce everything and tell the people who are interested in developing home garden on the terrace, you come and establish everything, you maintain, you regularly monitor, and you use the pesticide, everything. You can tell them, you can guide them. This can be a very big industry now. People really started growing, and whatever they need, vegetables and fruits, everything in their own home garden. And another one is a home theater. This is definitely a niche. Definitely a niche. Hereafter, people will not go to the theater to sit with 1,500 people, exposing themselves to all vulnerable. People may be hesitant to do that. And this is another thing you can try to do. In the home theater, normally it costs around 12,000 to 15, for 12 lakhs to 15 lakhs. But if you are able to design a nice home theater for 5 persons to sit and watch a film for 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs, you will really capture the market. It may be possible. Given today's technological marvels, it may be possible. This is worth examining. People will be preferred, because now most of the films are released online now. 2 Tamil films are already released, and Amazon, you pay to the Amazon regularly and you watch any new film. So this is possible, quite possible. So then home gym, this is another one. I don't say, you should go for a large scale one. Many people, many families, if they can afford, they would prefer to have a very decent gym. And that's another one you can try to explain. Implications of boycotting. Implications of boycotting Chinese products for micro, small, medium enterprises. Now, this is a very complicated thing, but I want to talk about it. Everybody says, come on, boycott. Many are throwing Chinese products. Many are breaking it into pieces. I don't know why are they doing it. Chinese have already sold those products to you. They got the money. Your money is in their pocket. Why should we break what we have purchased from China? I really don't understand the rationale. And then a very big campaign to boycott. We may not be able to boycott. We cannot afford to ignore. So apart from the problems we have at the border, and we don't approve that, and their aggression and their attitude, we are all upset with that. I don't think the world can afford to ignore China. Look at our exports, $78 billion you are importing, and you are exporting only $18 billion. And look at the strategic sectors in the semiconductors, cell phones, and so many products everywhere. How much we import from China? Around 80%. So if you are very much determined, really determined, as Father Kashmir Raj rightly said, citing the two-wheeler example, you do better than China. Are you able to do better than China? See, in terms of degree of industrialization, there is no comparison. We cannot compare. Degree of industrialization is determined by the share of medium, high-tech, and sophisticated products in manufacturing value added and the export. The global average is 80%. And China has exceeded 80%. And our performance 28%. Where are we? And in terms of manufacturing value added, it is even less. That means your pattern of production is not akin to the global reality. At the export front, you miserably fail. So if we are really determined to replace and boycott everything, not to buy everything from China, what is needed is a very good blueprint for aggressive reindustrialization within the next 3 years. Are we prepared to do that? Do we have a plan for that? Aggressive reindustrialization plan. We can do that. As Father Kashmir Rai said, we have the capacity, we have the capability, we have the resources, but we are not at it. We are not doing it. And we talked about the infrastructural facility. First, what is needed for aggressive the reindustrialization to erase the Chinese products? What is needed is excellent infrastructural base. If you don't have good infrastructural base and utility services, your cost of production will be very high. And then your cost of doing business is very high because of corruption. I'm happy Father Kashmir Raj made a very big reference to that. This is a major issue. Your cost of production is high because of supply side rigidities, infrastructural bottlenecks. Cost of doing business is very high. Cost of doing business is very high because of corruption. Father Kashmir Raj said around it is to the tune of 30% of the cost. See, I attended a seminar in Singapore, organized by the Indo-Singaporean businessmen. I was one of the keynote speakers. Believe me, all the speakers spoke about corruption. They said upon landing in Chennai airport, the guy who comes there to collect this guy talks about the commission, how much, and negotiation, how much to be given to that man, this man. And by the time he reaches the 5-star hotel, the issue should be settled according to the Chennai counterpart. They were laughing at it. Everybody spoke about it. At one point, one guy from Singapore asked in Chennai, one guy, don't you have honest people here? He said, yes, we have honest people. They are little more expensive. So under these conditions, cost of production will be really expensive. Cost of doing business will be very, very high. Unless we address these things, see, unless you create the efficient infrastructural base, there will be no microeconomic response to macroeconomic stability. In terms of macroeconomic stability, we are doing extremely well. Look at our foreign exchange reserves. No other country. In times of crisis, it's booming like anything. Inflation is moderate, reasonable. And the exchange rate, okay, rupee fell. But given the current context, our currency is stable. We have excellent macroeconomic parameters, but there is no microeconomic response. Unless you have efficient infrastructural base and utility services, there will be no microeconomic response to macroeconomic stability. Okay, so preference for individual house. Okay, I said that. And what is that? Efficient and reliable home delivery. Okay, I'm explaining. Okay, but so let me just give the clear message that if you really want to replace Chinese products, we need a fantastic blueprint with practical insight and foresight for aggressive reindustrialization of our economy. Okay, what is that? Okay. So let me just show you some sunrise and some sunset productive services and activities. Let us look at the sunset. Entertainment and travel, we know that it is severely affected. I don't have to convince you. Cinema, restaurants, live sports, tourism, automobile. Automobile, actually, there are many ambiguities about the possible recovery. Father Kashmir said it is affected, it may recover. I tend to agree with him because the people may prefer cars to travel in the public transport. Now, most of the middle class families are owning a car. We know that. Everybody wants, each family has it. The lower income people below the middle class may not afford, but with easy installment scheme and the incentive system, if it is possible, they would like to have a car because they would like to be away from a crowd, and they would prefer traveling in the car to public transport. From that perspective, the demand for automobile may increase. Then logistics, real estate. Real estate is completely down, and it's virtually impossible to sell a property now. and oil and gas is declining, I mean, at the national level. And construction, we are seeing, witnessing it, is completely down. Retail is occasionally picking up, but it is also in a depressed level. And major events like big marriages and this and that, they are all sunset. Let us go to sunrise. So when the sun is setting, it will rise again. So some of them may be added in this list, sunrise. I hope that will happen in the near future. Digital products and the gaming, structured knowledge. Somebody one day asked me when I mentioned about what is structured knowledge. Structured knowledge is exactly what I said about the immigrant. Very well structured knowledge, very systematically done with practical insight and foresight. That's a structured knowledge, which really creates some tangible impact. Okay, a gig economy, that means hereafter you may not get a regular job, you get paid for a given task. This is fast coming now. Stock market investing, that is very good. Then you can ask me, when everything is in a depressed state of affairs, how can you invest in stock market? Intelligent guys will make it. They will know what is going to boom in the near future. What are the promising product areas? Where the trend is moving? What is the changing pattern of production? What products will be in great demand? They will anticipate, speculate, and invest and spend money like anything. Online coaching is another one. This is going to be a big one. You must have heard about Byju's in Kerala. My God, he's a trillionaire now, not billionaire. He's a trillionaire. It just stemmed from a single idea to teach subjects, complicated subjects in a very simple language and intelligible to everybody. Even with the one brain cell, one can comprehend. So he is minting money. Online coaching is, so unemployed young boys and girls, please organize very effective online coaching, but do it in a very systematic way. And in a very simple way. You will get a lot of money. You will get a lot of customers. Alternate energy is another one. In alternate energy, I would focus on converting waste into energy. I used to call it waste into watts and watts into wealth. This is what I used to do. If you go and negotiate with the panchayats, municipalities, and corporations, telling them we have a methodology, we have a technology, you can actually import this technology from foreign countries. Austria is very good at it, making waste. It is said that waste is not a waste until it is wasted. So if you can introduce waste, from waste management, you can make big money out of that. It's a matter of your skillful negotiation with the panchayat, municipalities, other municipal authorities, and tell them that we are going to network with a foreign investor in order to manage the daily waste. And that will be a very big one. Then healthcare. Healthcare is another one. And data science and disruptive technologies. And disruptive technologies are going to rule the entire world. We cannot afford to ignore them. Disruptive technologies are advanced digital production system, artificial intelligence, additive manufacturing, augmented reality, then big data management, and cloud computing, then 3D printers, Internet of Things, Internet of Energy, Internet of Services, electromobility. These are all disruptive technologies. They are all new growth impulses. They are the one rekindling new and dynamic sources of growth. And amidst all these things, what is now happening is a lot of importance being attached to traditional values and systems. We realize that we are trying to practice what our great parents practiced, and thinking that this will add to our good health. And that is emerging. There may be also market niches one has to capture. So with this, sorry. Okay, what I would like, I will wind up everything with a very interesting quote from William Arthur Ward. He said, pessimist complains about the wind. Optimist expects it to change. The realist will adjust sails according to the change. So life is full of turning points. As you know, it is important to turn at the turning point. If you don't turn at the turning point, you know what will happen to you and your vehicle, your life and your vehicle. So it is important to turn at the turning point. So you may say, oh, I would like to be part of the change. No, of course, it is good to be part of the change, but it is better to be the change. You yourself be the change. Thank you.
Dear participants, Do you have any queries? You can post your queries in the chat box.
I am getting some compliments. Wonderful
Yeah.
session, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. They can type it. I can read very well. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. There is a.
You can also read out. Huh?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
That will be very convenient for me, to be honest.
Yeah. I'll read out a question from Esther Nasilla.
Okay.
Few economists say there can be a negative impact of L-shaped decline also, sir. What's your opinion on this?
Negative impact of
L-shaped decline.
L-shaped decline. Yeah, this means, it is flattened, the growth is flattened completely, and there is no sign of recovery. But, this may be the wrong imagination, because indications are that the economies will definitely recover. In Morgan Stanley predicted even 3% growth rate for the global economy, which is very high given the situation. L-shaped means for some time it may remain L-shaped. Eventually, it will definitely get into U-shaped. When you learn driving, you attach the L sign, learning sign, now for some time. Eventually, after some months, you remove that. So I would kindly request the participant to remove the L-shaped one after some months, maybe by the end of the year, and hope for the best next year. And the economy will definitely recover, because there is increasing evidence that those who opened up are managing it very well. That's the main thing. I don't say they are doing very well. They are managing the transition extremely well. Yeah.
There's another question from Dr. Selvi. What type of business is suitable for women to start in COVID-19 period?
There are so many things. I told them that each household should be industrious, and you try to promote. You take some 10 households, okay, in your village, and try to make them effectively empowered in productive or service activities. That will be very good one. They don't leave there. Women are at home. They can do that. This is going to happen. This will definitely happen. For example, in Egypt, what I saw was, they get a lot of inward remittance from Egyptians living in Gulf countries. The government introduced a policy. And here also, again, I emphasize, it's a matter of policy choice. Okay. And the government says, if a household, if your family systematically proves that a part of the income, 20% of the inward remittance is used for productive purpose, they get a grant. They get a gift from the government. So this is how they get all the households empowered in that. So they are doing extremely. So many households in Egypt, they are all producing the long bread. The long bread is very popular in Arab countries. You know that, and they are flourishing like anything. Like that, the best thing suitable. Of course, women are dominating everywhere, and they are capable of doing everything. And but if you want to be very realistic in the current context, if you want to get you don't do that. You be the organizer. You run the company and network with some 100 families in your family, and see what are the products which can be produced at home every day and supplied to bakeries and so many shops and the restaurants and hotels, and that will be the best for them.
Thank you, sir. Participants, any more questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Now it's time for the vote of thanks proposal. And at the outset, I sincerely thank the patrons of this webinar, our Rector, Reverend Dr. Henry Jerome S.J., our Secretary, Reverend Dr. Alphonse Manicum S.J., and our Principal, Reverend Dr. Maridas S.J. for their...
for the Rector, Principal, they are all here participating now?
Father Principal is participating, sir.
I would like to express my sincere thanks to Reverend Father Principal for the great opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. And for their constant support and encouragement in all our endeavors. And I wholeheartedly thank our eminent resource persons, Reverend Dr. Kasmir Raj, SJ, and respected Dr. Javama Levin Raichi, sir, who have spent their valuable time and share their invaluable knowledge with us. Thank you, Father, and thank you so very much. Also, thank our IKC coordinator, Dr. Ludaswamy, for setting up this facility, and Dr. Chidambaranathan, Associate Professor and Head of the MCA Department, for his technical guidance for this webinar. Thank you, sirs. I would also like to thank Mr. Winston for his 24/7 technical assistance in setting up this Zoom meeting. Wonderful support. I'd like to thank our Head of the Department, Dr. Arakidas, and the convener of this webinar, Dr. Robert Billerman, and Reverend Father Lawrence Benedict, for their efficient planning and coordination in this event. Thank you, sirs. I would like to thank Dr. Bright Jowards and Dr. Arakisami for all the front-end and back-end activities like creating and processing the registration form, and creating the feedback form, and designing the invitation, and so on. Thank you, gentlemen. Finally, I thank all the academicians, research scholars, students, and friends from SMEs for their active participation and cooperation. Thank you all again. Dear participants, we'll open up the feedback session right now. I kindly request all of you to fill up and submit the feedback form immediately. Please do not wait till 3 p.m. today, as announced earlier. It will be better if you submit it at the earliest. I think the feedback link has been sent to you. Please fill and submit the feedback form at the earliest. Thank you.
I feel honored. I'm leaving now.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Feedback link is already sent. Kindly submit the feedback form immediately so that we can process it faster. Participants, thank you all for your positive feedback. Hope to see you in the upcoming webinar series. And I thank all the participants for filling and submitting the feedback form. I see somebody says it's not working. It should work.
ஃபீட்பேக் எவ்வளோ வருதுங்கிறது தெரியும்.
என்ன
ரைட்டிங் தான் இருக்கு.
இப்போ வந்தா